there. Okay, now it's recording. So today we'll have two clips. The first clip is kind of silent because I'm just reading my homework assignment. The second part, which is starting from now, is going to be to actually have sound. So the first part has, it's multimedia, but minus, some major components. Okay, next I want to show you. Guys, how to locate the screen recordings for this class. So just in case you want to revisit, what I talked about in the class, but couldn't quite remember, how I talked about it, or the details of what I talked about, go to YouTube. Okay. So after you go to YouTube, the easiest way to do it is just to find my channel, which is Some Profs. So go to Some Profs. Just search for the word Some Profs, SOMEPROFS, one word. And the first link is going to be my channel. So just go ahead and click on my channel. And if you want to, go ahead and subscribe it. The subscription means, every day, I believe it's every day, you get a digest of, the new video clips that I upload. So you will see all the video clips that I upload. I typically upload maybe 2 or 3 a day. So it's not going to be swamped. You're not going to be swamped with spam messages. But that's the easiest way because you can, easily tell what kind of video I have uploaded. You can also go to latest activities or click, let's see, uploaded videos. And when you click uploaded videos, it is sorted in the reverse order. In other words, the most recent video clip is listed first. So in this case, 141 is right here because it's 2 days ago. And you can just click it and watch it again. It's basically what I talked about on Monday. Yep. Okay, uploading, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking. Uploading means it's going from your computer to quote-unquote the internet, the cloud. Downloading is the other way around. You're getting some content from the web onto your own computer. Okay. So one way to remember the up versus down is to imagine, have you guys all heard of the term the cloud? Okay, the cloud, which is, previously we know it as the internet, but now we refer to a good portion of that as the cloud. So where do we find cloud in real life? Do we find cloud on the ground or do we find it up?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
It depends on if you're sitting on a mountain.
Ah, very good.
You can find clouds, I guarantee you.
In San Francisco, you can be in the cloud too because you're.
Yes.
Yeah, but
normally
up, right?
Up.
Okay, so here's the cloud and here is your computer. If you're sending something to the cloud, it's uploading. If you're receiving some content from the cloud, it's downloading. Okay, is that helpful? Can you guys remember which way is upload and which way is download? Is that good?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. That reminds me to turn off my own ringer. Let me just double check, make sure. All right. Excellent. So can everybody know, does everybody know how to find the video screen recording for this class? Is that good? All right.
No.
Okay.
So I went to YouTube. I talked to some professors.
Yep. And then you go to, what did I click again? Latest, upload, or uploads. Scroll down. Can you scroll down a little bit more? Okay, maybe back up a little bit. All the way up. How come yours is different? Maybe I log in, maybe browse videos. There you go. So now it's also sorted in the reverse order. So that's basically what we talked about on Monday.
Okay.
Where'd you find that?
You have to click browse because I forgot that I already logged into my account, so mine doesn't look the same as yours. The first homework. Oh, that's an excellent question too. How do we know when everything is due? Very good question. So when you go back to the homework itself, this is the other homework, by the way, you will see the due date is listed at the bottom part of the screen. Is that okay? All right. So if you go to the first one, the one that I talked about earlier, I still have it open in one of the tabs. You can see this one is supposed to be due today, so I'm going to have to change the due date because we got new students coming in today. So let's go ahead and change that setting right now. I can change it to Friday. So you have to turn it in by Friday at 9 o'clock. You have 2 extra days to do it, basically. It shouldn't take that long. All right. Is that okay? Yep, go ahead.
So I'm doing the submission. Is there anything, will it know that it's from you? You'll know it's from me, or is there a subject line, or is it?
No, I know it's from you because you're doing it after you sign in. Sorry?
So when you hit.
Can you say that again?
For the homework,
Mm-hmm.
you were going too fast.
Okay. Well, let's just pretend that I'm a student. I'm doing my homework, okay? So this is what you need to do. So just hold on 1 second. Let me change the settings first so I can become a student instead of the instructor of this class. So I'll be seeing things about the same way as you're seeing right now. I'll change the zoom a little bit so it's more manageable. Now, the first thing you should notice is on the right-hand side, you should see a box with a title of upcoming events. Now, that's a very important box because when you look into that box, it shows you the homework assignments that will be due, within the next 2 weeks or so. And you can see the project idea is due on Friday at 9 a.m. Trend in multimedia content is due on Monday on the 29th at 2:20 p.m. Okay. Are we doing okay so far? Can you guys navigate and find recent upcoming events? It's on the right-hand side of your screen. No? Are you in Moodle? You're in Moodle. Are you in the class? You're in the class. It's right here. Upcoming events. Okay, your screen looks very different from mine because I had to zoom in so the class can actually see the text. Okay, hold on. Yep, you got it. Okay. You need it after the class. Okay. Can we do this afterwards? Okay, thank you. All right. So if you're not in the class right now, you cannot really do it. Even though you can find the class, you can't really do it yet. Okay, so once you locate the homework assignment or the link to it, you can click on it. Okay, just hold on, let me. Is he in the class? Yeah. Are you enrolled?
I'm still waitlisted.
You're on the wait list? If you're on the wait list, you're not in the class yet, so you kind of have to just watch what I do. It's going to be recorded on YouTube, so you will be able to revisit what you
I've seen the YouTube. I've seen your YouTube videos before.
Okay, great. So at the end of today's class, I will give you the permission number to have the class. You're on the wait list, but you're already in here. Yep, exactly. All right. So, well, let me finish this part first because I do want to record how to get your homework done. So you click on the homework itself. You will see the same text that I was showing a little bit earlier. You scroll all the way to the bottom, and it says here that I do not have anything submitted yet. So what I will do, is I'm going to. This is the one about. Oh, this is the other one. Sorry. This is the one about the research. I want to do the other one, which is the project ideas. Okay, there we go. Same thing. But what I would do is I'm going to copy and paste this portion so I know exactly what I need to fill into the homework. Okay, let me just go back here. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of that page, you will see a button, that says, add submission, right? Click that button. After you click that button and scroll all the way to the bottom again, you will now see an editor box. Okay, that's an editor box. It's called an HTML, editor box. But for the most part, you can use it just like a word processor. You can boldface, you can indent, you can use bullet lists and stuff like that. So I would just go ahead and paste what I had, copied earlier. So this time, I know exactly what I want to change here. So the topic will be memorial video of Firecracker, which is a cat that I lost earlier this year. It was really sad. Yep.
I use Mozilla Firefox.
Okay.
And it says that copy and paste is not available in Mozilla and Firefox.
In that case, you will have
I don't use any
to.
other browser at home.
You don't use any other browsers? There's a way to re-enable it. I cannot remember how to do it, but there's a way to enable it. You have to kind of Google just Google Firefox, copy, paste, and you will find the instructions of how to do
Is
it.
it okay if I don't have the copy and paste?
That's fine. You can just, hand copy the topic and, the availability is part.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, go ahead.
Tell her to highlight it and control copy.
Say again?
Tell her to highlight it and push control copy.
Once you highlight it, you type Control C to copy.
Well, I got Firefox, that's what I did.
Oh, okay. So you can copy and paste.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right.
If the paste it is control V.
Yeah, but I think the browser is preventing her from pasting it. I think the copying works, but not the pasting part. Yeah. All right. So so now I have to answer the second question. Do I already have the material in terms of video? So in this case, I would say yes. Video clips were taken when Firecracker was alive. Okay, and I'll use the same answer as for the third question. Yeah, go ahead.
So, what are we getting the videos off of our cameras?
Yep. And I will show you just a little bit later how to do that. How do you get the pictures out of your camera so that you can work on it on your computer?
I have a camera, but I buy it in the store, like the internet or whatever, to send them to the computer. But the problem is, it's like my camera is full of pictures I was just taking because I didn't know what I was doing, and I don't know how to get them off.
Okay, we'll address that once we get this part done. Okay. So after you edit everything, there's one more step that is very important. Remember to go to the bottom here and click Save Changes. Because if you do not click Save Changes, everything that you type will go away as soon as you close the browser. So you gotta remember to click Save Changes here. And after you save changes, you can double check, scroll all the way to the bottom again, and this time it should say your changes have been saved, and it shows you exactly the content that you typed earlier. Okay, so make sure you double check and make sure that your content have been saved before you move forward to do something else. Do we have any questions at this point about doing the homework assignment? No questions? Okay. Now, what if you change your idea, you change your mind and you say, okay, I have a different idea this time, I want to do something different. Well, go to the bottom here and click Edit My Submission. And what that will do is it will bring back the editor with the content that you typed earlier. So you can go back and change it. You can change it as many times as you want before the due date. Even after the due date, if you want to change what you want to do for your project, you can still go ahead and do it. You can just send me an email and I can let you go back in and change it. Okay, are there any questions about how to do the homework? No questions? Yes, go ahead.
I know you haven't added me yet, but I want to ask a question.
Go ahead.
If you have just like a smartphone, right?
Right.
And then you take the video, and then also you take the still pictures. Can you still take the chip and use it?
There are many ways to take it out of your cell phone. Does your cell phone have any network connectivity? Does it have a 3, 4G type of connection?
Right.
Okay, you can email that to yourself. And then as an attachment, you can download it back on whatever computer you want to download it to. You can also take the memory chip, but when you take the memory chip, it depends on how it is formatted. You may not be able to read it in Windows. That's the problem. So I would just go ahead and send it by email to your own account, whatever account you want to use that is accessible from your PC, then you can just read your email and then right-click and download the attachment. Unless the file is really big, then you need some other mechanism to download it. Okay. You're welcome. All right. So are we okay with the homework stuff? Okay. So don't forget, one is due on Friday and the other one is due on Monday. Are we okay on, how to find my YouTube content, the screen recording for this class?
No.
Not yet? Okay.
Can you do that one more time for me?
I can do it one more time. No, I haven't signed in yet. I wonder why it shows differently here. I think it's the browser. Okay, let me close this tab altogether and then start up Firefox so we can see what it looks like in Firefox. My Firefox is called IceViso. Don't ask me why, but it's the same as Firefox. Alright, so let's go to YouTube. And then you look for some profs. Okay. And it's being very slow for some reason. It's being extremely slow. Yep.
I have a question. Did you do it on your child? Like if she did I don't know, I can't get the words, but she did a thing, she did a performance at her school. Am I able to use that?
If you make the subject, performances of my child, and you want to edit everything into a presentation, that's good. Yep. All right, so we got it here, and once you locate my channel, go click some professors, and that will bring you to my channel. Once it brings you to my channel, it shows you the latest one. So maybe you probably don't want to click that one, but instead you want to click Browse Video. The second link here. Okay, so you click Browse Videos. And then, from here, it will list all the recordings that I have done in reverse order. So the most recent event is listed is listed first. So you typically will find this class, to be, one of the top ones. Do you guys have a question that I can answer? Okay, because it's a little bit disruptive. I can hear you guys. Well, that means all the other students can hear you guys too. Thank you. So did I answer the question? Okay, all right, excellent. You're welcome. So I'm going to close that tab here. So the original order of the topics will not get into how to get the content out of your digital devices until much later. But I want you guys to have the ability to do it now. So what I'll do instead is to change the order a little bit. I brought along a little prop here. This is my digital camera. I know it looks a lot bigger than yours, but it's still just a digital camera. And by the way, can anyone guess how much I paid for this? It's not from Craigslist, okay? So, yeah. $1,400. $1,400, huh? $349. No? $199.
No, it's out free.
Not free. Go ahead.
5670.
670.
I said 56.
Oh, 56. All right. Go ahead.
About 1,200.
1,200? No, I wouldn't buy anything that's 1,200 and look like this. I bought this for $120.
That was close.
Yeah.
Zeros off.
Yeah, just take 1 0 off. You're exactly there. I bought this for $120. It has a 30 times zoom, optical zoom, 30 times. And it's a wide aperture lens too. We'll talk about all these specs later, all the what that all means later on. Has a flash, has got HDR, which is HDR stands for high dynamic range. Okay, I'll explain that concept later on too. And when you pop open the battery bay, it uses AA batteries, 4 AA batteries, which is nice in a way because you can actually find AA batteries everywhere you go. You don't need to bring, remember to bring your charger. If you forget to bring your charger and you're in another country, it's okay. You just have to pay a little bit more money to buy AA batteries. But for today's class, what I want to do is to show you how to get the content out of the camera. It depends on the camera, but most of the time, the memory card of your camera is usually in the same compartment where the battery is located. Some cameras do not do it that way, so it depends on the camera that you have. So you have to go back, to look at your own camera and find out, where your memory card is located. If you cannot find it, bring it on Monday, and I can help you, find where the memory card is located. So there are two ways to download a picture in this particular case. One, this is what I usually do, is I take the memory card out, and then I get a memory card reader. I plug the memory card into the memory card reader like that, and then I can plug this into the computer. After I plug this into the computer, a new drive letter should appear, and then I can copy the files from that drive onto the local hard drive or upload the pictures directly. Is that okay? Does everybody understand what I just talked about? Okay, so that's one way. But let's say you do not want to do it this way because you just want to do it using another method. You can do it in another method as well. So what I'll do is I'm going to pop the memory card back into the camera. Now there's one reason why people don't want to do it this way. One good reason not to do it this way is because some people will forget to put the memory card back into the computer after the pictures are downloaded. I have done it many times. So when it's time for me to take pictures, I turn on the camera, and the camera says there's no memory card. You go like, oh, that's bad. Okay, so that's why some people prefer to do it the other way. To do it the other way, you need something else too. You will need. I'm trying to remember where I put it because I got a lot of stuff today. There it is. Okay. So if you want to do it the other way, what you need is a USB cable that is compatible with your camera. I cannot tell you which one you will need because it depends on when you bought your camera. Typically, the smaller end is either a mini USB type or a micro USB type. The micro USB type is flatter, it's a lot smaller. The mini USB type is a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker, okay? But you can just go back to the box that you got your camera out of, and you'll see if you can find the cable over there. Sorry?
I said if you still have it.
If you still have it, right. But typically, other types of USB cables will work too. This one, I think this one is from Jabra, the Bluetooth company. It works. If it's micro USB, it's micro USB. It works for your camera. It works for your Bluetooth device. It works for your external hard drive. So what you do is you plug it into the little slot here. I know you guys cannot really see it, but it typically will have a slot that has USB written on it. So that tells you that's where you plug in your USB. If you have the wrong type of USB cable, it's not going to plug in, so don't try to jam it in because that will just damage either the plug or the cable itself. And then I plug this into the computer. And you cannot see what I'm doing down here, but I'm just going to power up the camera. So I have to turn on the camera. And this is the reason why I do not like this approach, because it uses a battery on your camera. So if your camera's battery died in the process of downloading, then you have to charge the battery and then start to download again. And that's partially why I do not like this idea. I can't really show you what you will see in Windows because I'm not using Windows here. But if you're using Windows, a new drive letter should appear. And then you should be able to find your content under that folder. But I'm not using Windows, so it's going to be a little bit different. It's not showing up yet. Yep, I don't think it's going to show up because I may not have the right driver. But you do need to have the right driver for this approach to work. Okay? So my personal preference is using the first method, put it onto another card reader, and then read it from the card reader. Just so that you don't need to use up the battery life of your camera. Yep.
Quick question.
Yep.
On my computer at home, I could take my little card out like that and shove it right into my computer.
Yes.
Is that the same as a reader?
Yes. Basically your computer has a built-in reader, which is very nice. Most new notebook computers as well as desktop computers can read SD cards for sure. The Sony memory stick, may or may not be the case, but SD cards are so common these days. If you buy a computer in the past 6 years, it probably has an SD card slot built into it, which is very nice. Yeah. So thank you. Thanks for asking the question because I forgot about computers with built-in SD card readers. Very good. So are we doing okay so far? Yep. Okay. So what I'll do next is to go back and continue with the concepts. Now what you need to do is at least to keep up with me, okay? So you need to read the topics. Topic 1 is for week 1, this is week 1. Topic 2 is for week 2, and so on. We already covered what you can do with multimedia content. So what we'll do today is to cover these two, and I'll go into this part here because that's really just a lot of fun for myself. Okay, why is multimedia presentations appealing? Well, okay, there's an easy way to answer the question. Would you prefer content to be like this, like black and white, just text, or would you prefer it to be somebody actually talking about something with motion, music in the background, and stuff like that? Probably the second one, if that's viable, if that's a good choice. So that's why, okay? The only reason why I type it like this is because I don't have time to put up all the multimedia content, take pictures of cameras, and then have it being a very nicely written book. But that's also why it's free. There's no textbook for this class. You don't have to spend your money on textbooks. Okay? Are there any questions about why multimedia is appealing? Now, on the flip side of multimedia being appealing, you have to think about one thing. What if someone is blind? What if someone is deaf? What do you think?
That probably wouldn't be quite as attractive.
It wouldn't be nearly as attractive for one thing, and it may not even be quote unquote accessible, okay? So that is a big concern. If you work for the state, if you work for the government, federal or state, you understand the importance of accessibility. Accessibility to the disabled people is a very, very big topic, even for private corporations. Has anyone heard of the National Federation of the Blind suing Target because their website was not accessible to the blind?
Yes.
Okay, some people have heard of that. And it was a big thing. Target ended up losing the lawsuit, and they lost how much money? Do you remember?
It was over, the original settlement was supposed to be over 30 million.
30 million is actually kind of a drop in the bucket, for Target, but it's a big slap on their face. And the loss of publicity, that's basically irreparable. I mean, you cannot reverse time and say, okay, we're still the same good Target as we always have been. It's just bad publicity, right? Go ahead.
I remember when I actually heard something similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's with restaurants and it's between restaurants and people who are in wheelchairs.
Right, but that's physical accessibility. What we're talking about here is web accessibility. Now, Target already had a phone system in place for blind people to call, so they can actually still place order over the phone, talking to someone. So it's not like blind people could not place an order with Target over the phone, remotely. It's just that their website, did not have the alt, we call it the alt tag or the alt attribute. So the pictures, do not have any way for a screen reader for the blind to read out the content and say you're looking at a picture of a bowl, okay? You're looking at a picture of a water gun or whatever, okay? And it's just lacking that ability, so that blind people could not navigate a website. They got sued, and now they have to make it accessible to the blind. Yes?
but they made their store accessible to the blind. By
Yes,
using the
but it's
phone.
not. But this is not about the physical accessibility. This is all about the web accessibility.
Yeah, but if I was a business owner, I'm not gonna sell out millions of dollars for the minuscule percent of the population who wants the pictures to talk. I would put a phone system in line for you to be able to order.
And they already had it in place, but they still got sued and they lost the lawsuit.
That's like suing McDonald's for hot coffee.
Well, I cannot.
And she won, exactly.
And she
that's what I'm
won.
saying. Like,
Oh,
this is
if you
ridiculous.
want interesting lawsuits, I know this is getting way out of the scope of this class. There was one person who drove a Winnebago, the mobile home, and there's a button called cruise control, right? So I guess Winnebago may have called it, other than cruise control, called it like autopilot or whatever. That's confusing. So the person left, unbuckled the seatbelt, left, the whole thing driving itself, went to the back and do something, okay, rest or cook up something, and obviously the car crashed, right? And amazingly, the person survived and sued Winnebago and say, you cannot, do something like this. Your button says, auto cruise, okay, or cruise control, which implies it can drive itself. And guess what? Now you can sue anyone for whatever reason, but this person won. And guess what Winnebago had to do?
Change the button.
No, change the button
And pay
and give him this person. I cannot remember whether it's a he or her, he or she, but this person got a new Winnebago.
Can I sue because the store doesn't have a shoe size thing?
Yes.
What about small businesses because they don't have the money to just create?
People wouldn't sue a small business because they only want the money.
Well, one guy in Sacramento, actually the lawyer sued 1,000 small businesses.
Oh, but see, he
Yeah.
made it worth it though.
It's a shotgun.
1,000 small businesses versus one.
Okay, so
Financially.
okay, but bring okay.
The fiscal gain always.
Okay, let's bring it back to this class though.
Would
Yeah,
this
go ahead.
explain why Kmart has these ads, like right before you see the woman in the air? It reads, surprise layaway gasp or layaway flip, so they know what's going on.
Yeah, closed captioning. Closed captioning is important. So try to bring everything back to this class. It means if you're doing this personally for personal communication, there's no such concern. Okay, nobody's going to sue you if you push something on YouTube that is not closed caption and the intended audience is someone that you already know. Okay, so that's going to be okay. If you are doing this for a small business, you're probably okay. But remember, Target is a private business too. Okay. If you're doing this for a government or a public sector organization, you have to be extremely careful and make sure that your content is accessible one way or another to the blind, the deaf, and other people who have disabilities. Okay, it's becoming bigger and bigger of an issue. So I just want to bring this up, just in case, we are not aware of this issue. Okay, it's a big issue. Yep.
That's just the same way like the ADA. At first, they did not have any things set in control in order for other people who are not like we are, who are able to see, hear, walk, or whatever, be able to roam around society freely. You know what I mean? Or hear things freely. That's what it is, basically. So I think that by them doing what they did, you know what I mean, the people suing, it brought attention.
Yes.
A lot of people say, why do you have complaining? It doesn't mean anything, but it does. Because complaining does make a change in a lot of things.
Yep. Well, thank you for that comment. I think that makes a lot of sense too. But when you're working for the government and you're creating content for anything for the public sector, you have to be extra careful because that the tax, because the blind and the deaf, they're also taxpayers. So they're just as eligible to the content of a government website as everybody else. Now, private organizations are a little bit different. Okay, well, since we're talking about this, can anyone guess what types of organizations are exempt from the ADA compliance thing? In other words, if you operate one of these two types of organizations, you do not have to deal with the ADA compliance.
Are they charities?
I think charities may not be exempt. Okay, I can tell you one is a private club. So if you have a private club where membership is limited, you are not, susceptible to the ADA compliance thing.
Boy Scouts.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts doesn't seem to be a private club to me. The other organizations or class of organizations are churches. So religious organizations and private clubs are exempt from the ADA compliance requirement, but all other organizations are actually still exposed to the ADA compliance issue. All right. So as much as multimedia content is appealing, you have to make sure that the legal end is also covered. In other words, you have to have alternate descriptions of a picture, or have closed captioning for your videos, so that the blind and also the deaf can also get the content, or at least understand what is in the content. What about multimedia to print? In other words, you have a very good presentation that is already in using videos and still pictures. What do you do to turn that into a print form? In other words, okay, let's say in your case, a DJ business, okay? You have really good, promotional material that's multimedia, which I think is very fitting for a DJ. But at the same time, what do you do to turn it into a brochure? Because you might want to mail the brochures to people that you know already, clubs and whatnot. So that's actually pretty easy. Turning from multimedia to print is relatively easy. Because you can take screenshots, snapshots of the video, parts that you think are relevant, and then do some editing and then put it into a print form. Okay, but that's still a part of multimedia because it is a media of communication. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on in this class. Getting back to the class, we are moving ahead. We have about 20 minutes left. So yes, go ahead.
Before you move ahead, is the trend in multimedia content at homework assignment you're going to have us do over the weekend?
You do it over the weekend. It's due on Monday.
Okay. I took a look at it already and had a few questions on it.
Okay, let's go ahead and answer those questions. This is your homework that's due on Monday. Yep, go ahead.
As far as a trend, I was looking at how I really like the videos on YouTube about, I looked up horses at first, and then I decided to go with Tennessee walking horses for sale and look at how they marketed those.
Mm-hmm.
And the marketing that I liked best were the ones that that put together music and video
mm-hmm.
Of a rider on the horse. So
Okay.
would that be a good trend?
A trend means that you have to compare it, using snapshots of timeline. So you have to compare the older ads. Maybe the older ads usually just have a picture of the horse, or maybe just someone talking about the horse without the music background, or without the, just that special element, to make people feel, oh, this is a nice presentation. So you might want to indicate, okay, this is an older one, it lacks all these other nice stuff, and this is a more recent one and has got music background, or transitions, between the scenes is really smooth, not abrupt and stuff like that. So you have to indicate, what is in the past and what is in the present, and what do you think, is the trend, the incorporation of more stuff in this case.
Is it okay if all the sites that I compare are on YouTube?
Yes, that's fine. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so let me just go over this homework assignment, which you also have to do over the weekend. So you have to do some research with this one. Some people look at this, go like, wow, boring, homework. Well, try to pick something that is, fun for you, okay? Something that you enjoy doing anyway, okay? Because this is a good excuse to tell your spouse or your mom or your dad, I need to go to YouTube because it's my homework assignment. I need to crank it up because I need to listen to the music too. So, you can make it, about cars, bicycles, motorcycles, sewing machines, quilting, woodcraft, guitar making, whatever you want to pick, as long as it's not offensive. Proceed to search for multiple, I would say at least 5 of these multimedia content. On YouTube it's really easy because once you locate one, it pop up a whole bunch of related links, so you just kind of have to click on the other ones. That is related to the topic. You can use any search engine. You can use Google, you can use Bing, B-I-N-G, Bing, and so on. However, you might want to use a search engine that can help you locate multimedia content quickly. And Google has it. I think Bing has it too. Does Bing have a movie tab so you can locate movie clips. Okay, so there you go. In this class, multimedia must include one or more of the following components. So the multimedia content has to include illustrations of pictures, photographs, video, or audio. Okay, so it can be any one of these four. You also have to include a reference to each multimedia content of your homework and use this, which is a hyperlink. So I will go ahead and link it here. It's a guideline of citing resources on the internet. And this brings you to a really, really academic website, but what you need to do is to look at the examples. Okay, if you have a web page that has no author, then you can use this particular format, and so on.
How do you cite YouTube?
Well, that's a good question. Let's go to YouTube and find out. Okay, so let's say I'm particularly interested in stunts. Okay, car stunts and crazy car control, and you can see the when it was published. So when you click it, I'm just going to pause it, otherwise it will be very distracting. You can see when it is uploaded, so you can at least use the upload time as your time reference. Okay, sometimes it's not the actual time of publication, it's just when somebody uploaded the content.
Okay.
But if you cannot find anything else, use that one.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you put the screen name for the person? You use the...
Yeah, the YouTube account name is fine if you cannot find anything else. Yep.
What if the YouTube video that you find was made like 5 years ago?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. You still have to quote the year, when it was made. Yep.
Okay, the assignment, is this about the project in which you're gonna do?
No, this is the other assignment. There are two assignments. One is the project idea, and the other one is to locate what is the current trend of multimedia publications. So this is the other one. This is the other homework assignment.
This is for 8 weeks?
Say again?
For 8 weeks?
This one, the one that I'm talking about right now, is due on Monday. It's really just to make sure that you guys understand what is the current trend of multimedia content. It has a different link in Moodle. Yep.
So for reference for that one, you'll say crazy car control.
Right. That's the title.
Maybe the year 2007. And then available from YouTube. That whole URL in the brackets, and then the date that it was done.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Even with the date here, you can just say uploaded on a particular day, to emphasize the content may not have been created at that date. It's just uploaded on that particular day. Okay. Yep. Any questions about the citation? No questions about the citation? Yep, go ahead.
Question, do we have this on the website?
Yes.
Okay.
The link to it is on the website, so you have access to it. Once you get to the homework, you just have to click this. It will bring you to that website.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so indicate at least one trend that you have noticed. For example, you may notice more content now include closed captioning. Which is a very big trend. A lot of companies now have to put in closed captioning. Or you may notice the use of cutscene techniques, certain types of cutscene techniques. Like maybe before people used really crude cutscenes, and now people use more smoother transitions and better effects. Or perhaps a particular type of photo editing filtering technique is getting more and more popular. I remember there was one time when reality TV was really, really big, a big trend. They tried to make video content that was actually taken with high fidelity, and they turned it into something that looks kind of more cruddy with more junk in it. Intentionally trying to make it lower resolution or change the contrast so it looks like old film and stuff like that. Not sure whether that's still the current trend, but that's basically what happened in the past. So maybe anything that you notice, of this is old and this is new, and and certain things are different. And this is the outline of your homework assignment. You have to name the topic. Okay, in this case, car stunts. you will have to cite at least 3 content. So I would just have to go to YouTube and find 3 citations or 3 video clips of car stunts, and then I have to identify what is the trend that I notice. Okay, maybe the incorporation of music. Maybe before you just hear the tire screeching and people screaming, and now you actually have music to go along with it. So that's your other homework assignment. This one is due on Monday. Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
How do we actually submit? How do we actually submit these? I mean, I only know how we submit read the syllabus. I know.
Right. Okay. That's a good question.
How do you?
Okay, I will answer that question right now. You go to the bottom of the page and then you click Add Submission, and after that, ignore. You have an editor box. So you type in the editor box to answer the questions. In this particular case, you might want to just copy and paste this content here, or if you cannot copy and paste, just type the same thing, because I want you to include topic, content for comparison, and also the trend, and then you just type the rest, which is your answer. And then after that, you click Save Changes, and that's it. That's all you have to do to turn it in.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And by the way, in this editor, there's one button here called Toggle Spell Checker. You might want to turn it on, just so that it fixes all the basic spelling mistakes. I know most people who want to put out multimedia content, think well, words are not as important, but it is important. Okay, spelling mistakes are not good. It's reflective of the quality of everything else. So, yep.
I know that even when I'm looking at Yahoo reviews, if a person has misspelled a lot of words and their grammar isn't correct, it makes me doubt what they're saying.
Yes, you doubt the credibility of the source. Yes. All right. Well, we got 10 minutes left. I get to go to topic 2 because this is something that I really, really want to talk about. It's my personal interest. Okay, how do we, now this you can see this has no multimedia content whatsoever. It's very dry and very long. Okay, but since we're talking about this in the class and I'm doing screen recording, I can add multimedia content as we go right now. That's the nice part about screen recording is I can do it right now. Okay, how do you find or evaluate a camera? Okay, where's mine? Oh, it's right here. Let's do plug in. All right, the first thing you notice is the size, okay? Now size does matter. Sometimes it's good to have a larger one, sometimes it's not so good to have a larger camera. How many people want to have a larger camera just because you want it to be bigger? Okay, one.
It looks cool.
It looks cool.
There are generally more things you can do with larger cameras. They're generally
Okay.
better made or larger.
But now you're talking about other specifications that basically you cannot avoid making it larger because of the other specifications. But you don't want it to be larger just because it is larger. Some people have bigger hands, and people with bigger hands definitely want the camera to be a little bit larger so they can hold on to it. I have relatively small hands. On the other hand, even with my hands, if the camera is only about this big, I have problems, holding on to it, in a stable way, because I can only use like 2 fingers to hold on to it. I cannot grip it, as well. So that's why, the size does matter, but most people don't want it to be like exceedingly large. They just want it to be large enough. One factor that determines how big your camera, should be is the screen, the LCD screen. Because if you have a small camera, then the LCD screen, which is now the viewfinder of most digital cameras, will also be smaller. So now even if your camera has 12 or 16 megapixels and has like super sharp lenses, if your screen is only about this big, you can't really see whether it's in focus or not. It's more difficult to see what is taken, what kind of picture you're taking. So that's why cameras cannot be too small because of that particular issue. Okay. Now the lens is, in my opinion, a very important issue or a very important part of whether you want to buy this particular camera or the other one. The first one has to do with sharpness. Now what we humans see as sharpness, technically speaking from the camera perspective, there are two major factors deciding what is considered sharp and what is considered not so sharp. The first factor, or the first term, is called resolution. Now, resolution is a very interesting term because what does it mean? When you're talking about the sensor, it means how many dots your camera can take. But when you're talking about the lens, resolution means what is the distance between two lines? What is the minimum distance between two lines so that the camera can still see, or the projected image of the camera can still see those two lines as two lines and not blurred into one single line. That's the technical definition of resolution. A lot of times you cannot find the actual resolution, so you have to rely on reviews, and look at sample pictures to see whether it has good resolution or not. The other component of sharpness is called color aberration. Now, color aberration you can actually see very clearly. What color aberration is when you look at a sharp edge between dark area and white area. If your lens does not have color aberration, you see a very clear cut line. Okay, one side is really dark and one side is really bright, and you see like a clear line in between. If your lens has bad color aberration, then it separates the colors. In other words, you will see red on one side and you will see blue on the other side instead of one sharp edge between the black and the white. That's called color aberration. Now, color aberration usually happens at the edges of the image. So after you take a picture, using your digital camera, you want to look at the details of things around the edges and see whether it separates the colors into the red and the white, the red and the blue, or whether it is still really sharp. Okay? I find that really inexpensive cameras have very bad color aberration. Most people don't notice it and don't care, but I do. The second aspect is called distortion. Distortion is not really sharpness because it's called either pincushion or barrel. In other words, when you shoot a picture of a grid normally looks like this with straight lines. But if your lens has distortion, this is called a barrel distortion. So the lines will become kind of bulged out a little bit here. If your lens has the opposite effect like this, it's called a pincushion distortion. Now, distortion is not a big deal if you're not taking pictures with sharp, straight lines. In other words, if you're an architecture person, this is a big deal because otherwise your buildings will not have straight lines anymore. On the other hand, if you just take pictures of, say, flowers, of people, things that have irregular shapes to begin with, distortion is not a big deal. Okay, a little bit of distortion is not going to ruin your picture. Are we doing okay with distortion? Okay. This one is most people do not understand. What is maximum aperture? The maximum aperture is actually published on the lens itself. It usually has a term like f over something. I'm trying to find mine here. Mine is actually not published. But you will see a term like f divided or f slash and then a number. Now this is the part. Are you guys doing okay? Okay. Yeah. All right. So the f number is the confusing part because the larger the number, the smaller the maximum aperture. Okay. It's called the f-stop. Exactly, the f-stop. So if you have a lens that has f slash 2.8, it's a very good lens. Okay. Very few lenses have a maximum aperture of 2.8 in terms of f-stop. Most handheld cameras like this one. May I take a look? Thanks. So this one has a maximum aperture of 2.8 using wide angle. That's what the first number is. And at a telephoto lens setting, it has 4.9, which is not bad for a size like this. So your camera still has a fairly good maximum aperture setting. The maximum aperture is basically determining how much light can go through the lens, so that your sensor can see that light. And what it does is it can determine how well you can record motion without the blur effect, and how well you can take pictures using only available light with low light situations. Yep.
So what causes when you zoom that blurry,
Okay, when you zoom in, and it looks kind of blurred. Now when you zoom in, things will look a little bit different. In other words, you can have something that is perfectly sharp, at the distance that you want to take it from, but everything else is blurred. Are you talking about that particular blurring
Like if
effect?
I'm at a distance and I'm gonna zoom in on their face, it seems like it distorts it. It's not crisp.
Then you might be using a digital zoom feature instead of an optical zoom. Some cameras have what they call a digital zoom. A digital zoom is basically just magnifying the pixels, and that's why it looks fuzzy. So you might want to look up the manual and find out whether your camera is capable of digital zoom. I personally just turned it off because it's of no value to me.
Okay, so I want to use optical zoom.
Yeah, you only want to limit to optical zoom if you want the picture to be sharp. Okay, very good. Now, one thing about maximum aperture is it does make your lens bigger. Okay, if you want your lens to have a larger maximum aperture, your lens will end up bigger, so your camera ends up bigger as well. You also want to see if your lens is zoomable or has variable focal length. This is the technical name of photographers, and this is the name that we use as consumers. Okay, can your lens zoom out and zoom in? Now this one is zoomable. It has a 30 times zoom, which means at the widest angle, things that can look really small will be magnified by 30 times when I'm at the other end of the zooming. So let me just go ahead and zoom out. You can actually see how the lens is going to change its shape. So this one is not very dramatic. Some other cameras are very dramatic when it zooms out. So that's a big factor. When you buy some of the less expensive cameras, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, they have a feature called digital zoom. Digital zoom is not optical zoom. In other words, there's no more information going into your camera than not zooming in. So digital zoom is just basically giving you the effect of zooming, but without adding any more information, which means the picture is going to be a little bit fuzzy, and that's basically, I think that's why you said when you zoom in the picture looks a little fuzzy. It's because the last part of the zooming is digital zoom. So it will do the optical zoom as much as it can, and then if you continue to zoom in, then it will start to use digital zoom, and that's why the picture looks fuzzy.
So it uses less pixels once it does that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Effectively, it's using fewer pixels. Yep.
How is this supposed to let out?
At 20 right now. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop right now because the professor of the next class is eager to come in and set up his stuff too. So we'll go ahead and stop right now, but you need to read all the material on the website. Okay, so topic 2 is what we'll talk about next week. So as soon as you can log in, go ahead and read the material, and don't forget about the homework. One is due on Friday and one is due on Monday.
How do we turn in the ones due on Friday?
Same way, it's just the editor at the bottom.
Never mind.
Yep. Yeah, everything you can turn in, using Moodle, or later on we'll publish to certain websites and you have to give me. That's all right. Okay, so for those of you who are on the wait list, and this is the first day you come here. Oh, before you guys leave, I want you to sign the roll sheet. I'll put it here. Just initial your name, on the right hand side. And there's a pencil here too. If you're trying to add to the class today, come here so I can add you to the class. And I have to do it as quickly as I can because